Hey guys, welcome back to the Ice Project. First of all, this podcast is brought to you by YKTR, Australia's favourite clothing brand. Jump online, cop yourself something doozy. High summer's out now. If you are watching this on YouTube, make sure you smash that subscribe button. Please like, please comment, please share. If you're listening to this podcast in your car, make sure you share it out and tag me in your stories. But for now, roll the intro.
Welcome to the Ice Project. Welcome to the Ice Project.
Hey boys, what's up?
Let's do it.
What's going on?
So for people that don't know who you are, please introduce yourself, starting with you, Chris.
Chris Lawrence. Play for the West Tigers for now going on 15 years. Got
15
another,
years?
Yeah, got another contract for next year. They couldn't get rid of me. They tried. But hanging in there to the death.
Father or?
Yeah, got a 2-year-old daughter running amok. Good kid, but plenty of energy. Got more energy than her old man. So I'm definitely, as Chad would know, you're with a similar age daughter. So always on the go.
Yeah, Chad Townsend from the Cronulla Sharks. Same as Chris, playing the NRL. Heading into my 10th year next year. My wife and I, we've got 2 kids. Got a little girl. She's 20 months and just had a baby boy about a month ago. So both going well.
Just re-signed as well. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, just re-signed with the Sharks for another couple of years. So very happy to get that done and looking forward to what's ahead.
Got Player of the Year last year as well. That's pretty.
Yeah, got had a probably my best year individually in my career. I was lucky enough to win our Player of the Year and our Players Player of the Year, and it was a special night for me. And looking forward to next year for sure.
All right, so a little bit of footy chat. People love footy chat. Preseason, how's it going into your 15th year? How do you feel?
Well, I'm only 3 days in and the body's rattled already. So we trained up until the grand final. Couple of reasons why the club sort of committed us to a few functions and whatnot. So when we got knocked out, obviously didn't make the semis, then it was like, okay, you're on holidays, and then turn around and go, well, club's already committed to some functions. So the players and coaching staff thought, you know what, because we've already committed to that, let's train up to the grand final. So, I mean, as a playing group, we were happy to do that. As long as we got our allocated break, that was what we made sure that, we'll train up to that, but don't go bringing us back early. So
I feel like that's better, isn't it?
Well, at the time when we first thinking about it, because then for the older guys, our return date was 2nd December. So straight away, as soon as you got a December start date for pre-season and you got less than a month, you're like, sweet, 100%. But the training pre-Christmas up until the grand final, it wasn't just like cruising. So you would finish the year and it was pretty solid. It was a solid training session. It wasn't just getting flogged, but it's pretty solid. So at that point in time, after about a week or two, you're like, oh, did we make the right decision? Because all you want to do is be on holidays, the season's finished. But now looking sort of being only 3 days in and the body's pretty rattled, but I only got, I think, 2.5 weeks to go. So that's a lot better.
Do you know what's crazy? I was looking at your Wikipedia, and we were born in the same year, 1988. But fuck, it feels like you've been around forever.
Everyone says that to me. They go,
I thought you were going on 33, 34.
How old are you? But I debuted when I was bloody in year 7. So that's why.
I remember your debut, actually.
It was a good debut, wasn't it?
17-year-old out of high school, hey?
Was it Brizzy? Did you play Brizzy?
Brisbane.
Down the sideline?
Down the sideline, mate. Skinny kid, long blonde hair.
Speed to burn.
Yeah. I remember, I literally looked at, I had a talk, or I did something recently, and they showed that footage, and I literally looked at that, and I'm thinking now, looking back at what 17-year-olds are now coming through, and most of them are massive units, they're different. But what were those teammates thinking? In the dressing sheds, getting ready, looking next to me, go, what is Sheensy thinking, bringing this bloody kid in? Is he serious? He's going to get crushed. Literally, that's what I'm like. Looking back at it, I thought I was nothing. I played a few games reserve grade, so you sort of think it's not such a big step. But I look back at it now, I go, wow, that was a big step.
Sort of ignorance of use is pretty good when you're younger. Everyone thinks they're killing it when you're sort of 17, 18. You think you're ready. But that was crazy. So let me talk about 2 coaches that you've had, the contrasting style, Tim Sheens and Michael Maguire. What's the biggest difference between them 2?
Actually, they're very similar. They're very similar in...
Because you look at their style of play where I watched Tigers and you guys were so good to watch because you're so free. It looked like you were freestyling, but you might have had structure within that. And then you look at Maguire and he seems like he's a fucking robot and you got to play into a certain way. But
I think that they're probably similar in a way that their attention to detail, they're very thorough, in terms of the analysis of everything they do. There's a specific reason about why they're doing it. The video analysis, even down to the plays, where you're running in certain sections of the hole, why you're doing it. You're trying to set up for 3 plays down the track. And I suppose that's why they're very similar, because you had Madge playing under Sheensy back when in the Canberra days, and he had I think he's had 7 or 8 NRL coaches that he coached, Ricky Stewart, Laurie Daly, Mel Meninga, Bellamy, he had such a great line of coaches he coached. But I think I suppose the two differences, Sheens was very attack focused, especially when he came to Tigers. He's like, well, we'd have the biggest team in the squad back then. We're going to run teams around, so we're going to throw the ball. And a lot of people thought at the time that was probably off the cuff, but he would practice and train. So all the boys knew, like, even if it was on play 2, we're shifting the ball. We know where we've got to be. So it probably looked off the cuff. Whereas Madge is obviously very defensive focused. Winning your tackles, winning the wrestle. So that's obviously where they're different. In their focus. But I suppose in the approach and how they do things, they're very similar.
I heard they're only about football. Is that true? They only love football. Like,
yeah.
If you talk about anything else, it always sort of comes back to about the Steeden.
I think Madge is actually better than Sheensy.
Oh, really?
Sheensy has literally lived and breathed football.
Lukey Porteous told me this. He goes, they used to have bets on like how much money, how much time it would take before he started bringing back footy.
Yeah, Fultz was the best. So Liam Fulton, we used to have to have bets. So you used to have a chat as a group, and you used to have to go as far away from footy as possible and bet how long it would take for him to relate it back to footy. So it'd be like, oh yeah, we've got taking my kids down to the beach and this and that. And he goes, yeah, back in the day when we were at Canberra, like I did, and he related it to footy. He goes, yeah, Ricky Stewart did
a beach in Canberra.
Ricky Stewart had a time off, but then when he came back from the beach the next day at training, and we just somehow relate everything back to footy. But and Madge is good like that. You can have a chat with him about things outside of footy. Like Sheens was good. He just loved his footy that much that he just lived and breathed it. He used to go home. Finish the training session and used to go watch replays of like old games and try to pick up even though there was the game had evolved and changed, little plays we used to come up with. We used to have all the scrum plays in the world. He used to come to training the next day. Goes, I got this new scrum play. Watch the 1989 grand final or whatever. Rewatch old videos and goes, let's try this scrum play. And some would do and like, nah, that's not working. And others like, this actually might work. Because, you got guys like Benji and Robbie and those guys who've got such those skills. But we actually scored a lot of tries off scrums back in the day. Because a lot of it came from Sheensy, just picking up stuff from...
I watched one of them one time and Dean Hullatow was at the back of the scrum and the scrum just split like that and he ran straight down the middle and he almost got a line break through it.
And I think that was that's one of the out there ones that he just picked up from the old games. But that's literally what he did, and lived and breathed footy. But he was definitely the smartest, in terms of footy brain. Like, just knew everything about the game. He just lived and breathed footy. So you'd want to know everything about the game, I suppose.
All right, boys down in the Shire. What's been happening down there pre-season?
Yeah, it's been pretty tough. I've been back for about 3 weeks. Our younger boys been back for about 5 weeks. Our rep boys just got back this week, so plenty happening. All sort of pretty full schedule at the moment. Pre-season with full day Mondays, Tuesdays, half day Wednesday, recovery, and then full day Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday morning. So pretty full days, and get home and pretty tired at night.
Similar question, the difference between coaches, John Morris and Flanagan?
Yeah, look, Flano, very hard-nosed, been around a long time, very experienced. And then John Morris, obviously the youngest coach in the NRL.
How old is he?
38. 1 year older than...
Same decade as us, bro. 1 year
older than Paul Gallen.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so with the boys used to give Gallen a bit of stick saying that, he's older than our coach. But, yeah, look, I was actually lucky enough to play with John Morris when I first debuted in the NRL. And, one thing with Bomber is he was, such a professional player. He played over 300 games in the NRL, in the halves, as a hooker, utility, across a number of clubs. So professional, the way he went about his business, and he's sort of, he's got a master's in coaching. He's dead set taking it over into his coaching. He loves his coaching, loves his players. And I think for us, we can relate to Bomber because he's played over 300 games. He's done his time, and when he talks, the boys listen. So,
why do Cronulla hate a close game?
Mate, we love a close game.
It's like you guys score 2 and let them have 1. And it's been like that for years. Like, you guys just love a close game. I don't get it.
Yeah, we're probably in the last few years we've our attack has probably come on a lot better. Where in previous years the Sharks were always known as people who can't score points, and now we sort of get teams and we try and grind them down as much as we can, and a lot of the time it results in close games, and we've won our fair share of close game. Like in 2016 when we won the comp, we won a lot of close games, and Chris will tell you that you've got to win the close games to be there at the end of the year. We were playing the Tigers in round 26 to make a spot in the finals. That's how close it is. So,
that was a good game, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was good for us.
Sorry, bro.
At Leichhardt, in front of a packed crowd. It was literally at a finals atmosphere, and again, it was a close game, and that's just the NRL. It's such small margins.
So you got to. There's a saying that you got to face that only a mother could love. I think Cronulla fans have got a team song that only they could love. Fuck, that's an annoying team song, isn't it? I think it makes it worse because Gal's face is right close to the phone.
I hate talking about when we won the comp, but when we actually did, like,
Why do you hate that? That'd be my first combo.
I don't want to talk about it too much, but like when we up Cronulla was in the bloody top 40 on.
Oh, really?
Played on the radio. Like, that's how much people knew. Everywhere we'd go, people were singing it. So I don't know if anyone else likes it, but we love singing it. So.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so obviously you guys have pretty great careers so far, but I want to talk about a couple of tough times in your career, your injuries, dislocated hip and your face. Do you want to touch on those? I've heard dislocated hip's one of the sorest things that you can do.
Yeah, that was very painful.
What kind of pain? Like, what are we talking about here?
It's hard to describe because it literally I didn't know how it happened. I remember just running in, taking hit. It was like 3 minutes to go in the game. I think we'd already won the game off a scrum and taking hit up, and I just got twisted in a tackle, and it's like my boots got caught in the ground, and as I got twisted, it sort of like twisted and popped out. And I remember the physio come running over. He goes, like, "What'd you do?" I've dislocated my hip, and he goes, "You sure?" And I go, "Yeah, I'm fucking sure." Like I just knew it.
Is there a pop or anything? Or?
Yeah, a pop, but I just felt like the whole leg. It felt like it was just. I thought it was like going completely the other way, but it wasn't. And I just couldn't move, and it was heaps of pain. And they tried to sort of put me on my back to take me off, but I think where it dislocated and went behind, so I was like on top of the bone. So I was like, no. So I got stretched off on my side, and once I got obviously the green whistle and the morphine, and that helped, but. That still, I could still feel it. I remember getting sort of wheeled off to hospital in the ambulance and going down sort of the ramp, going to the thing, and there's the little bumps that you go across. And like every little bump I could feel it, even though I've probably had 2 green whistles, 2 shots of morphine, and it was basically passing out, but I could still feel it. Like when I've had other injuries, like previously where I've broken my jaw and just broken hand, just different things where you had a green whistle and then it's like you go back out there like the pain's gone, whereas this didn't take away a lot of the pain. So but it was sort of once I got back so I went to the hospital, and so the hip was still out, and I went to, I think just Campbelltown Public Hospital or whatever. I went in there, they said, there's someone in surgery at the moment, there's only one surgeon in. So I went in after that, and I straight away said, knock me out, I don't want to be awake when you put it back in. And they said, no, like because it's out and it's not going back in. It's such a big joint. You need to be fully relaxed. If you're, consciously tensing up at all, it's not going to go back in. So they knocked me out. Said, we had a couple of 3 nurses or a doctor standing on your chest. The others are pulling your leg trying to get back in. So it got back in, and I was pretty lucky, to be honest, because a lot of the damage happens when it goes back in, like when you chip bone, cartilage, all that type of thing, because that's when you have more complications and need surgery. I was lucky. There was some torn cartilage, but I didn't sort of crack any bone going back in. Otherwise, that would have been tough. But then they said, and which I didn't realise probably until 3 days after, where I think I heard one of the doctors getting interviewed or saying, someone on Fox Sports saying they'd spoken to the Tigers doctor and said I could be career threatening. And I'm sitting in the hospital going, what? Like career threatening? Like what? My career could be over? And then talking about saying, could need this. And I hadn't heard, first time I'd heard about it, I'm looking at on Fox Sports News or something, like sitting in the hospital. So
is that what that tour's done from Alabama?
Yeah.
Something similar, right?
Yeah, he's just recently done it. I'm not sure the exact extent of what you've done, but like similar, like had to get taken off, carted off, dislocated hip, like, and he's projected.
I think that's the one that done Bo Jackson back in the day,
Yeah.
dislocated hip.
Yeah, well, few I think Gavin Cooper and Gareth Willett both have dislocated the hips.
Wow.
So went back in, but the thing is, once I sort of went back in, they said if it's longer than 2.5 hours out, then the risk of the blood flow dying to your leg or just stopping with your leg increases, and you need a hip replacement. So that's basically where they said, you don't know whether it's the end of your career, you have to get a scan at 3 months. I had to wait 3 months, and because it was out for 2.5 hours, like right on that window, I was sort of like, they said you'll start to know, but we'll get scans. So I was lucky enough, obviously got scans and it was all fine. But once I went back in, like the next week, it was sort of, it's fine. How painful it was fine sort of after the next. It just felt like a brute, like I just had got a massive cork around, my hip and glute, and it was only on sort of crutches for a week and a half, and then I could start to walk. So it sort of made the, I suppose, the rehab a bit easier because I didn't have to be like in a brace or crutches. So after about 2 weeks, I could start to sort of walk normally, and it was still really sore because all torn ligaments and muscle, but it was obviously a lot easier than having been in a brace and having a sort of knee recur.
What about the smash face thing? What happened there?
Yeah, that was And that was like literally so innocuous. It was in
Benny Madalena?
Benny Madalena. It was 2 days before our trial in New Zealand, and then I was literally thinking, because I got through Madge's first preseason here, got 3.5 months just getting towed up, and 2 days, I'm not even a full contact session, and I go down with injury, but it wasn't even a full contact. I think it was just a bit of an opposed session, left versus right. And again, one of the boys ran, sort of poked their nose through, and me and Benny Madalena going to make a tackle. And we both were, when your heads come around, and his head's dropped, so it's the top of his head, and I've sort of lifted my head, so he's got me square, like right in the cheekbone. And because we're sort of both coming hard, even though it wasn't a full contact session, he's got in the hardest part of his head and the sort of weakest part of mine, and it just literally just like my face sort of just imploded. At the time when I did it, sort of, I straight away thought my teeth had got knocked out first, and then I'm like, oh no, it's my jaw that's got broken. And then so I've gone down, like felt the blood and everything, and then they sort of moved aside and had the doctors and everyone and physios come. Oh, not the doctors, the physios come over, and then as the time started going on, I'm like, oh no, it's my cheekbone as well, and I'm like, oh no, it's my nose, and then everything. I just felt pressure in my face. I'm like, oh, and then I started about 5 minutes. I was like, yeah, shit, this is bad. Like I could feel it really bad. And then the pain wasn't as much as intense as the hip. But it was obviously quite painful. But I was sitting there, and I remember, because I couldn't speak because all the blood was rushing down the back of my throat, and I'm struggling to breathe. And I kept sort of waving at the physio, going like, trying to like give me some morphine or give us some drip. And he's like, oh, there's no doctor. We called the ambulance. We're waiting. And he kept lying. He goes, oh, it'll be in 2 minutes. It'll be in 3 minutes. And after about 20 minutes, I said, mate, and like just, he goes, mate, I'll be honest with you, mate, I don't know how long the ambulance is going to be. You could be in for like 2 hours. And mate, I freaked out because I was really struggling to breathe. And I'm like, literally a little switch went in my head. It goes, if you like panic and start choking on the blood, he goes, you're like,
drowning in your vomit.
No one's here to help you. So it was sort of like,
who's this trainer you got? Doesn't sound like the best one, does he?
But they were good in keeping me calm. Well, they kept me calm for like a period to say, oh, it's coming. But again, like after about 25 minutes, I'm like, where's the ambulance? So they like had to sort of be honest with me. So I sort of literally sat there and just tried to close my eyes and just literally focus on breathing, because I thought, like, if I'm here for ages, mate, like I could be in trouble. So I was lucky enough. I think it was about an hour. The ambulance came, got to the hospital, but it was just, it was one of those things. I thought, again, you get injured as a footy player, go into surgery, get it fixed. And so I'm like, I'm going in to get surgery, get plates or whatever I need to put in. They go, mate, you're not going to surgery now. We need to pop your jaw back out. We can't go into surgery for that. We just got to needle you up, do that. Then you guys, you got to wait for your face to swell, the swelling to go down for 2 weeks. And then I sort of only just started learning about the process of what it was, and got the scans. They go, yeah, mate, you've fractured 12 bones in your face. Everything bar the bottom jaw was broken. This left side was in pieces, and they said, yeah, like you need to go back to Sydney. And so I had to wait in New Zealand for like 3 weeks because they worried about me losing my eyesight flying back. And
was that the worst part of it, staying in New Zealand? Chad told me to ask that question.
Well, I got a great tour of the airport. So I was staying at the hotel right next to the airport.
Oh,
so I reckon I did about 20
Manukau.
laps of that airport every day. That was my little outing, just doing laps of the car park at the airport. But I was lucky I had my wife. She flew over and obviously, kept me company and whatnot. She was pretty rattled when it came over because, again, my face was fully swollen like a balloon. But yeah, and then got back, got the surgery, and then it was just a process from there. I thought it happened straight away. They're like, no, you need to let this settle, and then you might need to have ongoing surgeries and this and that. So it was just such a long process, and something that was so innocuous. Like, you think of all the tackles you make, not only in a game but in training. And for like something like that to happen, just the exact timing, it's just
Ben's such a nice guy too, isn't he? He's sorry, G.
Yeah, I know. Benny was like, he just looked at me, because that next day they went to, because we were in Auckland and we played our trial somewhere north or south. I'm not quite sure, about an hour. So all the boys went. So I was in the hospital by myself. But then when they came back to fly home, he came and saw me and goes, "Oh, hey, you're right, man. I'm sorry, man." I go, man, like it's actually like it's a freak accident. Like you think like of all, I mean, especially we've been bashing each other all pre-season and wrestle, like guys getting split open and that, and it's just like a freak accident. It's like it's not no one's fault. That's footy. Like when you sign up for it, that's what you sign up for.
Yeah, that is a part of footy. Chad, yours is a little bit different and also a part of footy.
Yep.
Going into that 2016 grand final, had a game down in Canberra and actually got hooked off. People don't understand what that sort of feels like. Do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, it was. I'll never forget it, to be honest. It was at our first semi-final down in Canberra. We finished in the top four. We finished fourth. We finished third. Canberra finished second, and this is when they started doing the Viking clap, and we ran out. It was a sold out stadium, and I remember it being really loud, and I started the game like pretty well. Like actually got a try disallowed early. I'd show and go and went through, and then there was a lead up in the offload. There was like a knock on, and I just remember Louis was my back rower, and we call a couple of plays, and we just weren't on the same page with what we were saying, and we'd been on the same page all year. Like that year we won 15 games in a row. Like we didn't lose a game for 4 months straight, and things just weren't clicking for Louis and myself and our edge, and I made a number of errors throughout the game, and then probably about 20 minutes to go, the message came down, and the trainer said to me, "Chatty, you're off."
Oh, it's the worst. What? It's the worst feeling, eh?
And I was like, "What?" And I like had to like, and he's like, "Yeah, mate, you're off." And I was like, "Oh my god!" Like I was filthy. Ran off, got off the sideline. Like got a water bottle, threw it to the ground. Like looked up to the coach's box. Like gave the coach like a little bit of a look, and just sat back down. And and it was more like had I let my teammates down. Like that's the worst feeling. Like when you feel like you've let your teammates down. I sat there on the bench, and I was obviously filthy, but the boys went on, and we faced a bit of adversity that game. Like Gow didn't play, Wado came off early in the game with concussion, and Kurt Capel came on, and that's probably like the game that made his career. Came on, played really well, and then anyway, the boys, we went on and we won the game. We would diving and made a number of tackles late in the game to win the game, and anyway, we won the game, and that's kind of when Mickey Ennis was doing the Viking clap to the Raiders fans, and anyway, like we won the game, and I was caught up in a bit of my own emotion, like obviously very happy that we won, but I was just filthy that I got called off. I didn't play very well, and it was hard for me to sort of, I guess, enjoy the win, like because obviously as a rugby league player, you're pretty hard on yourself and things like that. And anyway, I went in the sheds, and the first thing I did was I went up to Flano and I spoke to him. I said, "Mate, what's going on?" And we had like a brief conversation, and he just said, "Mate, like I needed to make that call for the team," and I was like, "Yeah, that's all good." And then I remember my missus, my now wife, came down, and I didn't go home on the bus. I went home in the car, and she's like, "How are you?" And I was like, "Well, look, like I'm devastated. Like I'm really filthy at myself. Like that I let my teammates down. And that's probably the worst feeling. I feel like I let my teammates down." And then I rang my manager, and he just said, "Mate, like you just got to move on from it now. Like you're in the final series. What you got to do now is like we had recovery the next day. You get to recovery, like smile, like walk in, smile, and just carry on like nothing happened." So I was like, you know what, like that's what I'm going to do. So I walked into training, like smile, like just joking around, like what must be my normal self. Because if I had walked into training and was moping around, like that's going to rub off my teammates. My teammates can be like, "Oh, like is this guy all right? Like what's he doing?" Like our team just won, and at the end of the day, like the team comes first, and that was like the biggest thing I had to realise and understand at that time. It was pretty difficult, and then we had the week off, and so I had 2 weeks to prepare the game, and the next day we were back into training. And
Flano come out and said, "Chad's going to be our halfback the next week," so there wasn't any pressure on your spot.
Exactly. So like 7 a.m. the first day we're in at Sharks for training, I went into his office and I had another chat to him. I said, "Mate, like I looked him dead in the eye and I said, "Mate, like what happened on the weekend? Like I can look at you dead in the eye and say that's never going to happen again." And like I was pretty motivated to make sure I held my word, and then had 2 weeks to prepare for the game. Was just super focused on playing like my best game. Like I didn't feel like I needed to go out there and do anything that's not me, but just go out and do my job. And if I did my job, it would give our team the best chance of winning. And we played the Cowboys to get in the grand final, and I probably had one of my best games of the season. Scored a try, gave Louis a nice short ball over JT, try assist, and I was going off. Like I had like tingles through my spine. Like that's just how I felt throughout the game. And then we won pretty significantly, and then I just was overcome with so much emotion. I actually had a cry on the field. Like I got down on one knee, and I was like, man, like this game, like it's just so many highs and lows, and like you can be at the rock bottom, but then 1 week later you can be on the highest of highs. And And you guys know, like this game, like it's an absolute roller coaster. So
A week's a long time in rugby league.
100%.
Okay, so here's a question for any young halfbacks out there that are struggling with form. How do you get yourself back into form in the next game? What do you do to get yourself into a game?
I think you go back to what works for you. So for myself, like I know what works for me, like what I need to do for my preparation for a game. But also, like I like watching footy, but also like watching. You know, if I feel like I'm not playing my best, like I might watch some plays or some highlights of myself when I've played well and see what the things that I'm doing well. Like, am I taking the line on? Am I having, executing the kicking plan? Maybe look at, some nice passes I've done and think to myself, this is what you need to do. Like, it's not, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Go back to what works for you. It's so easy to, I guess, go through a low in confidence, but you also, like, for me, like bringing the energy as well, like the talk, communication, being a halfback, like you need to be the most vocal on the field. Make almost like a coach on the field. Like what is my coach sitting in the coach's box want me to say to my team at the moment? Like you're almost like his messenger. So go back to what works for you, and you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Do the basics right, and everything will come off the back of that.
Good man. All right, a little bit outside of football. When I look at football players, and when I was in football, I used to ask players, what are you going to do after football? And not many of them said too many interesting things. So when I look at you two guys, I feel like you guys are going to be all right after football. So you've always had a sort of an entrepreneurial spirit about you. Let's talk about your journey. And you started early, didn't you?
Yeah, very young. I suppose probably started just because I debuted, but still being in high school, and I remember just getting thrown in the spotlight, and I'm a bit of an introvert. I'm not don't like the spotlight that much. So for
Just
me,
let Benji have it.
yeah, just let other boys have it. They can take all the credit. But yeah, so I didn't like it. And I found just by focusing on say finishing my HSC and doing that as a good escape. I'm just going to study and focus on that, and then so the second year I'm like, oh well, I'm going to continue to do some study because like I just found that helped me get through that period and not have to see myself in the papers. And again, as Chad said, you're hard on yourself, especially when you're young. You take longer to get over your mistakes and you dwell on everything for a lot longer. So I found that hard, but I found it as a good escape. And then I thought, well, there's a good opportunity to start a business. So I just started a business when I was quite young, just running holiday clinics and working with school sports programs. And I thought, well, and myself and business partner are only 19, went to school together, and we just thought, I will start a business. Very naive, and just I'll give back to community, be really good. There's nothing like this out there, and started doing a lot of that stuff. Then had some more opportunities to work in schools. Then that sort of grew, and then had opportunity to work within the corporate space. And then it got to the point where there were so many things going on. I had to sort of choose what pathway I was going to go, and at the same time, we then got the opportunity to then help athletes with their own educations, particularly with the health and fitness space. So it sort of developed over the last, probably 8-9 years, and particularly the last 3 years, that's where it's really started to, I suppose, grow. And even the last 12 months, particularly for myself, like, putting a lot of time into it and having a business partner and people, that obviously work within the business. But, for me, having to only be able to dedicate so many hours a week with footy, footy's still going to be number one priority, because if I don't get that balance right, then I start playing poorly. I'm a big believer in that. If you have something away from footy, again, it can manage that roller coaster. As Chatty said, like, the roller coaster, if you ride it too hard, and if it's all footy, you ride it too hard, it's very hard to. That week between the two semi-finals, imagine that's
That's a long time, man.
Yeah, that's if you're doing that every single week, it's just very draining. So I found it as a good leveler to have something to focus on, a passion away from there. And again, given I was coming to the end of my career, I had to sort of reevaluate, because again, sometimes trying to do too much outside of footy, and worked out, okay, where have I got my passion, and where can I have most impact and influence of what I'm doing outside of footy. So
what is your passion?
My passion is just helping everyone, or whether that's athletes or people within an corporate space, or anyone, be their best selves. Help them improve their performance, whatever that may be. So within an athlete sense, that's obviously helping them improve their performance on the field by making them better off the field. So we use the Cert 3 and 4 in fitness, but it's not so much using that and delivering that course as we want you to be a personal trainer or a group trainer. We just chose that course because both myself and my business partner did it, because it's relatable. Everyone who plays NRL knows fitness.
I think I done mine when I was on footy. I think everyone's done it.
They know footy, but there's so many guys that have come in and had bad experiences with that education prior. My business partner was a perfect example. He hated school, went to uni, dropped out of uni. But then, so, get told this is a certain way you got to do education, but that's not the, traditional or conventional education is not the way to do it. And it's not the way that fits for athletes. So we were like, well, how can we develop and design a course that's going to meet the needs of athletes? Because we're a unique bunch. We've constantly got changing demands. We're always on that roller coaster. We've got contract stuff, family stuff, injuries that we've got to manage in and amongst that. So we use that because, relatable, it's enjoyable because we all have some level of passion for fitness because we're trying to be fitter and healthier. And if we build confidence in learning by allowing people to, have an achievement, here you've got your course, now you can take that next step. And we have guys going on to business courses, guys on to uni, into coaching, nothing to do with Cert 3 and 4 and fitness, but it's a good way to build your confidence. It's just a stepping stone. So that's the sort of, the passion I had and particularly using that. And the last sort of 3 months or 3 years ago, we started doing a research project basically to look at how athletes want to have education delivered for them and what's going to get the positive outcomes in education.
How do they want it?
They basically, again, it's changed over time. So again, it's got to be flexible. It's got to basically not be a one size fits all. But it's got to be, you got to break education up into achievable blocks. So for example, if you go to uni, you might have a whole module or whatever, and you look at it and go, well, how long is this module? This is going to take me 10 hours, and you sort of lose motivation. So for the research, we know that if we break things up into 1 hour, players go out to a game or to a session on the field, there's an outcome, there's a start and a finish. So if you can see the end date, the end, and you break things down in hour blocks, so they know, okay, I need to commit to an hour, and then you finish that and you've achieved that. It's like a progression. So you slowly progress, and that's how you get through things. So if you make it too big or too long, then it's very hard for anyone to get through. That's where you lose motivation. That's where so many guys start and they drop off. So that was an important aspect. And then utilising technology, we use Zoom for Zoom classes. So, guys, because, again, guys...
You don't want to leave home, do you?
They don't want to come in their days off. And that's changed over the last couple of years. Like, the last 3 years ago, everyone was like, nah, we want to do our courses with the boys face-to-face at the club. But given the training demands of... And this is in all sports of... the training demands of athletes have changed. It means that there's not long days and a lot big days off. There's a lot of half days. So when players do get a day off, they're like, I don't want to come into the club. I'm there all the time. I want to get it completely away from it. So they can choose the time. They can jump on. They're on with players from other clubs, other sports. They engage with them, and it's great for them, and they love it. So
you just play footy for a laugh?
Just
play 250 games for a laugh.
This back end of the year, it feels like that. So with this sort of last year, I've just come obviously off my holidays, and I got away to Bali for 5 days, but legitimately, because when the season finished, like, I hadn't signed a contract, so I was like, well, that could be it. Like, so I literally just head down in the business and made some tough decisions in terms of direction, and even with that space, and we also work within the corporate space and work with that managers and executives about high performance mindset and resilience, and had to sort of basically the things that I didn't have a passion for, or things that I suppose weren't working for us, just get rid of, because I'm like, well, if I'm finished now, like, this is my job, this has got to be my income, like, and I didn't know, it wasn't until sort of mid-October where I actually signed a contract. So to be honest, I was up in the air, and I thought, look, I've got to get as much done. When I did sign it, I was like, well, I've got one more year, everyone would like to keep playing forever. So, but realistically, it might be in my last year. So try to get as much done in this off season, because again, you go back to pre-season and it's so mentally and physically draining. So, just getting as much done and trying to, again, make that transition easy. And I suppose that's the one reason, and the one thing we try and help all the athletes going through is just, you got to try, and the earlier you can do to start compounding the effects of, doing things that you might not like what you do, but it's a learning experience, learn to what you do to, transitions, I'm close to transitions. So I want to try and learn as much as I can from other people about how they've dealt with it, because, you can set yourself up as much as you want. It's still going to be hard, but it's just about learning from other people.
Sounds too smart to me. All right, Chad, you're a little bit different. You sort of relate to us a little bit, where you sort of make your own content and you make your own vlogs and you got your own podcast now. What pushed you towards that direction?
Yeah, probably like...
You kind of self-brand yourself as well.
Yeah.
That's very sort of Americanized, isn't it?
Yeah, oh, definitely. And that's probably where I got a lot of my influence. Like, probably about in the last 12 months, or like prior to that, I studied finance. I wanted to, I guess, learn how to handle your money and, make the best life you can, invest, learn things about tax, superannuation. And then once I sort of finished that, I sort of moved into, like, I'm a massive NFL fan, love NFL, follow the Cleveland Browns, and also, like, I love NBA. I don't have a team, but, like, I love, like, the culture of American sport, and I feel like American sport and you know, the way they do things like with media and access to players and fans, and you know, I really enjoy that. Like I really enjoy watching, getting up early on a Monday morning and watching the NFL, playing NFL fantasy and things like that. And probably like I've done a bit of reading. You know, Gary V was probably a little bit of you know, an inspiration to myself about branding. And then probably a big one like this year, especially probably like Russell Wilson from the Seattle Seahawks, who's the quarterback there. And like, you know, he's like an absolute superstar, and he has like a little podcast called Danger Talk, and where he gets a few of his teammates on, and they might talk about like the game they've just played on the weekend, and you know, some of the plays and what he's thinking. And for example, like I listened to one of his podcasts throughout the year, and throughout actually the Seahawks were playing the Browns, and Russ's headphone, or if the quarterback has a helmet on which has a radio in it, which gets the message come down from the offensive coordinator, he calls the play, and Russell just tells the huddle, and then they do it. But his microphone blew out and didn't work, and so he was on the field and they didn't have any timeouts left. So he orchestrated, went from his own field position all the way down the field and called every single play and scored a touchdown. And he told that throughout, like on his podcast throughout the week, and I was like, man, that is like so interesting. So he's been a big inspiration for myself more in the podcast. Like I just started the podcast probably about 2 months ago in the off season, but you know, more like branding and I guess doing it while you're playing, because while we are playing, like people actually care about you, you know? And then when you like, you know, this game, like Chris has said, like he's getting ready to transition now, like it doesn't last forever, and you got to make sure that you've got stuff in place. And I also agree heavily with what Chris said in terms of like having a balance, because that for me is the most important thing. Like this roller coaster, like I said, there's so many ups, there's so many downs, and if you ride it too hard, like you get too caught up in one thing, then the other thing gets, you know, taken away from.
You become moody as fuck, don't you?
Exactly. So you know, you can't
plenty
be
of those boys going around.
you can't,
plenty of those in the change room, aren't there?
You can't be overcompensated in footy, and then you can't be overcompensated in things outside of footy. So, you know, you've got to have that balance where it is footy, family, hobbies, business, interests outside of footy. And that for me has probably been this year where I got it right. You know, I feel like I had my best individual season, and I've got no doubt that it was due to the fact that I got the balance right, where I was doing stuff away from footy. I was happy with what I was doing. I was happy with my family, and I enjoyed coming to training. It meant for me, like when it was time to go to training, I was ready to go, because I've been, you know, having other interests and doing other things, and then I wanted to rip in and do this time. And then when it was time to footy training was done, it was like, let's see what else we can do, like with your life. Like I said, this game doesn't last forever.
Do you know what? Well, you don't realise this when you're actually in it. You got so much fucking time when you're in football, don't you?
Yeah.
Like, I remember we used to be at training, and like if we went home by 1, all the boys would be like, fuck, well, how are we not home yet? Like, we should be home by now. And you get like a half day, then you roll into another day, and then you play football. You got 2 days off. I used to waste so much time. And I sort of realised that. So you sort of touched on your podcast, you're going to sort of roll into that style where you're interviewing players once a week. Is it going to be Sharks orientated or what?
Yeah, like I'm not too sure. Like I haven't sort of thought too much about like in season, and obviously, you know, like the roller coaster of things that happened throughout the season.
You get 3 losses in a row. No one. Do you know what's funny? I was meant to get the Sharks boys into my podcast ages ago, and you guys went on like a 4-game losing streak, and everyone's like, "Are they coming in?" I was like, "Yeah, they're coming in." And I was just waiting for the fucking blokes to win.
Yeah, and you're totally right. Like I this year, actually at the start of the year, I said to myself, like I didn't have a course lined out to study, and I was like, for every media opportunity I get through like Fox Sports or Channel 9 or radio, I'm just going to say yes to. And anyway, it sort of led to a spot on NRL Tonight every fortnight on a Monday night for half an hour.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So where I just go on and we just talk about like, you know, relevant topics throughout the game. And there was a journalist on there, Dean Ritchie from the Daily Telegraph, the host, Megan Barnard, and then myself, the players. And I'm heavily focused towards the players and backing up the players.
Yeah, we're very biased around here.
Very like, I'll always stick up for the players, obviously being a current player. And then there was one time where Dean Ritchie was going hard at Cameron Smith, like I can't remember what it was throughout the season, and I was like standing up for him, like he's probably the greatest player of all time, and I was like, man, you can't be saying that, like you know, we've got to stand up for each other, and yeah, so you know.
Do you know what I'd like to see for you that I don't really reckon anyone's doing? Sort of film breakdown. Like I know there's a lot of podcasts and things. Yeah. That'd be great. Even if you broke down 3-4 plays, it doesn't have to be your own plays.
Exactly. I really think that would be such an awesome idea. I've thought about that because I've seen I think it's Peyton Manning, Detail.
Is that him? He does it? Yeah.
Yeah, with Peyton Manning, where he actually goes through the plays And it's phenomenal. You know, to hear a Hall of Fame quarterback break down the plays and what he's actually thinking, like that's cool stuff.
Because
So
if you say that convo around any other NRL halves, we all sort of know what we're talking about, you know what I mean? Like get to a point, break it down.
Yeah.
But like people outside the game don't really understand that.
yeah, the lingo and the terms, like, you know, we all know obviously like what it means, but like, you know, people like even like, you know, there's games where you prepare for a defense who, you know, they might have a centre who always comes up and in. So
like say Bulldogs, for example, they're heavy jam side.
Heavy jam. So what do you do? How do you combat that? You know, and I don't think like the normal rugby league fan might not know that, you know, you might need to put your back row on a different line or kick over the top or things like that. And you talk about it all week, prepare about it, prepare for it, and then when you do it on the field, like that's the best feeling. That's one of the best feelings for me.
But fans they'd probably appreciate the game so much more if they knew there's a reason why you were hitting short and not going out the back. You know, fans go, "Oh, I should have gone out the back." You know, it was on out the back, but
how good hindsight,
you're hitting short for a reason because you're going to come around and do this.
Because that's the plan. You know,
that's the plan.
The coaches have made you.
Then they might, you know, open up and they might appreciate the game more because they start to see little things like, "Oh, now I know why they're doing this or why that person's in that position." Because
definitely.
you know, you've done something like you've broken down and, you know, explain the reasons why. Again, you do your video and footy players know, you know, you get to a certain point in your structure, as you said, but, you know, there's a reason for everything you do.
Yeah, 100%.
So you look at NFL, they've got such analytical, like they've got stats for everything, and it's like that in rugby league. But we just got this mentality of it's like just run hard and tackle hard, and you'll be all right. Like the scores, like, we fall back on cliches so much, but I feel like that'd be a great avenue for you to take.
Yeah, I've definitely, to be honest with you, like I've thought about that before.
Hey, so what are we doing here on the TV? It'd be sick.
Yeah, like it'd be cool, and even like.
And do you know what's cool? I reckon between you and Sean Johnson, you guys play the game so differently. Where he's
definitely.
But the way he'd see that game and the way you'd see the players a lot different too.
Yeah.
So that'd be a cool contrast.
Yeah, 100%. Like our styles sort of differentiate a lot. But even like I'm more like interested. Like I love watching like, you know, Monday Night Football, which is played on. It's aired on Tuesday here in Australia. Yeah. Like they do this thing called like the Monday Night Mic, where like I remember watching a game a few weeks ago. Richard Sherman was playing against the Cleveland Browns, and he was wearing the Monday Night Mic. So he was mic'd up throughout the game, and there was just little cuts of him talking to his teammates. And I was like, man, that is so cool. Like imagine like once a week, like an NRL player has a mic on. Like I remember
they done it for a little bit. Remember on Steele's show?
Yeah, man, can you remember Brad Arthur?
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah,
how good was that?
Yeah. That was this year, right? Yeah,
that was this year. Man, that was awesome. Like I love, and I feel like the NRL, like we're still a few years behind.
We're fucking way behind. I'll just say it right now. We're way behind.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like we've got so much. There's so much out there that we just don't capture, you know. And it's coming into that now, and we just I don't think we do a good enough job.
We'll figure it out, bro.
Yeah, that's it.
So your podcast, what do you guys talk about on yours?
Yeah, so I suppose the Be Ready project is about, I suppose, transitioning, being ready for life after sport. So a lot of it came because, again, I was coming to the back end of my career, and a lot of the athletes that I suppose we're working with some of the education programs, and we're trying to get them on footage and just a bit of a chat about why they did certain things, and they started saying the same sort of things about, you know, like, I wish I had done this and this when I was, you know, younger, and the same message. So, you know, for me, it's like I learned by hearing people's experiences, like learning from, how did you, something that I want to try and do, you know, have you done certain things, and good and bad. Like if someone's done something and, you know, it hasn't worked out, I want to try and learn from that. So we thought it'd be a great example to try and, you know, have, you know, I'm newly retired, or the guys coming, you know, at the back end of their career, and then guys who have been retired for a long time, you know, in all sports, trying to have a chat to them about their transition, good and bad, you know, what they found helped them through that period, where they struggled, what they're doing now, and, you know, just have, you know, all players, especially younger players, learn, you know, from experience. Because I think that's the way to do it, and it doesn't matter. Again, we've all sat in the room, you know, as young players when, you know, everyone says, "Oh, your footy career goes like that." Straight away, no, and you know,
in your mind, you're just going,
all right. Whereas if you had heard from other athletes, and not so much say your career goes like that, but basically tell them about how hard the transition was, or, you know, when I went through my first couple of years, this worked for me, and now I'm sweet now, or no, it took me 5 years and I struggled. So at least players can prepare themselves to go, okay, well, I know it's going to happen eventually, so I want to try and have that mapped out, because I know when I get to that age or whatever happens.
Do you know what I found hardest when I first finished is like you don't have structure there anymore.
Yeah.
So like we've gone all from school straight into first grade and stuff like that. So you go to school like from 9 to 3, you're at school, you go home, you get dinner, and then like you started playing when you're 17. Yeah. We obviously went into first grade training, go be here Monday, weights 9 to 10, field like 12 to
Yeah.
1. You know what I mean? You get told what to wear.
Yep.
Be at the airport, wear your grey polo.
Yeah.
Like you just
Yeah.
get told how to play. Or
Yeah.
if we complete it over 90%, we're going to win games. Or this is the play we're going to go. So you don't have to think for yourself. And when I first got out of it, and it took me about 6 months to realise that, I was a little bit lost. Like I was sort of just scattered, like floating about, but I wasn't getting much done.
Yeah.
Like I was busy, but I wasn't getting shit done. So that was the biggest transition I had. And then I used to like go, oh, like from 9 to 10, do this, like vlog.
Yeah.
and
We have to do that.
And it's just because I was so used to that. But it's funny you touch on that. There was a key moment. I was about 2015. I knew I kind of wanted to finish, and I was sitting there, and I was actually with Wado, and we're at his birthday dinner. And there was a guy, I won't say his name because I don't want to embarrass him, but he, like if I said his name, a lot of people would know who he was. And he was blind, and you could just see the regret in his eye that he hadn't done anything. And he was going to me and Corey. He goes, "Oh fuck." He said his name. He goes, "Hi, it's me. Oh, you guys won't remember me anymore because I don't play first grade." And he kept going, and it kind of made the whole table awkward.
Yeah.
Everyone knew who he was. He was a gun.
Yeah.
And just because he was there, and that was like my moment. I was like, "Shit! Like I don't want to be like that."
Yeah.
And this is the perfect podcast for that, isn't it?
Yeah, and we've got, so myself and Leon Kim, my business partner, but also Craig Lambert. So he used to play AFL, played over 200 games AFL, and then went and worked in welfare and coaching for both Brisbane Lions and the Giants. And so he's bringing that aspect as well. And I mean, he's a good family friend of mine and a good mentor as well. So I've had a chat to him about this for a long time. Again, in the differences but similarities between different sports, and even having a chat to him the other day. And as you said, the routine of going through everything, you get particularly, more and more in NRL, particularly within AFL, when a lot of the facilities in most AFL clubs are a lot better. But
They're way better.
everything is spoon-fed to them. But literally, he just said, like, the biggest worry for young AFL players now is literally they get spoon-fed their supplements, all their meals. Everything is literally given to them, so they don't have to think for themselves. So if they get injured or they come in and, particularly the top draft picks that, they're going, so they're assuming they're going to play for long careers, but a lot of them don't actually go, so they might become free agents in, 3 or 4 years, and if they don't get picked up, then they've been spoon-fed for 4 or 5 years. So that's the biggest concern for, those guys. And the NRL's getting a lot like that. I mean, even now, everything's, because a lot of the trainers and coaches want everything, to the T. They want to make sure everyone's, having their meals at a certain time and eating a certain way, having their protein, having their supplements. So everything's just getting spoon-fed. So
Bro, Corey's like that. Like his life skills outside of football, fucking zero. Like even like booking flights and that, he used to like struggle to book flights, or like how to figure out how to get car insurance for his car, just basic shit like that. That's on Google. Like he just doesn't know how to do it, and you just try and get one of us to do it. I know.
But that's the thing all players do, and even like little things, the same thing for myself. Like even. So when I first came up, I had obviously a sponsor car and this and that, and then even buying my missus' car years ago. Then
get a Rego,
like, but you know what I mean? Because that I've come up, going from school that my parents had
here's a Mazda.
Here's a little 88 Corolla, 88 Corolla. Here you go, and then a couple of years later you got a sponsor car. So not having to learn that skill to do that. So. Then going, okay, you got to learn that skill. But
then you get a Rego in New South Wales and look, what the fuck? How expensive is this?
Yep, Rego, and then the car insurance comes out, and I go, hang on, is this your car or my car?
No, I think for you, like, you're one of the rare ones, like the guys that come straight out of school, go straight into first grade, and then like
at 17.
Oh man, like a lot of those guys, like, because they don't learn life skills, they don't learn like the skills we're talking about. Like they do suffer, and they end up fizzling out because they don't have those life skills where. What you've done, mate, it's been super impressive.
Yeah, very impressive. I remember hearing about when I was young, and I was like, is he doing that already?
Yeah.
So here's a question for you. Passionate football players just come into first grade, has no outside passions just yet. What does he do?
I reckon he just tries to find something, just try anything.
A bit of everything?
A bit of everything, because I think that sometimes, and it's actually funny, so my business partner did an interview with C.S. Oliola, so he went through our course, and one of the things that stuck with me from the video he did was it's better knowing something you don't want to do than something you do want to do. So that's what he learnt from going through a lot of things he's gone through with education courses throughout his career. So that'd be the perfect example for other players. Go do things, go, volunteer, if you want to do community work, go do that. Even, I'm sure if you rang up a company and go, look, I just want to come in and shadow and do a bit of internships. Companies for having first grade players in any industry, like 100%, come in for half day on your day off, and you get a feel for what it's like. Go, no, I hate this industry, I don't want to do it. great. You know that's not what you want to do, you know. And that's what I think you need to do. You don't want to commit to something like a course or something long term and then get, you know, I know heaps of players have done a uni course and got 6 years in, or just finished it or not finished it and go, I'm not going to fucking do that now. Like, I'm done. Like, why have I just done that? You know, I've done that because I thought I wanted to do that.
It's kind of like
initially.
an ego thing, uni things at the moment, a uni certificate. Like, I've got my master's in business.
And
Where's your business?
Yeah, and finish it off and don't use it. Like, I literally, I did uni when I first started the business, and because I've dropped out of uni when I came out of school, didn't work out. Long story short, got basically failed for plagiarism. You know, because I've
Wikipedia, were you?
Yeah, no, it was actually mates because I went away, couldn't go to this particular subject at the tutorial at all, and they weren't flexible at all, and they said no. I remember the course coordinator said to me, "Oh, you got to make a choice what your priorities are," and I said, "Yeah, footy." And that's why I'm coming to get it changed. She's like, "Oh, can't you get the coach to change training?" I'm like, "I played first grade." Anyway, so I had a couple of good mates who were doing the same course. So I actually went away to a junior kangaroos tour. The next day, the assignment was due, so came back, had no time to do it. I got the notes. I legitimately wrote it myself, but then had to have graphs and this, and that was an exercise science degree. So I just used all their stuff. Got a phone call, plagiarism, and I'm like, nah, this is bullshit, I'm out. So I quit after that, and that sort of led me into the other education space, because I'm like, I was always very big on learning and just always bettering yourself, and I'm like, I really got a sour taste after that, and then went into this fitness course, and then from there went into a commerce degree online, which is real flexible, and literally I'm still doing that now. I did that to help me learn how to run my business better, and now I got to the point where a lot of I've got 2 subjects to go before getting the degree, and literally the only reason why I would finish those 2 subjects is just to get the piece of paper, just to finish it, because even some of the stuff I've done is irrelevant, because 8 years ago, like stuff I've done on marketing and sales,
It's changed.
Everything's changed. So, but again, just trying to find a time to get 2 subjects to get that piece of paper to say.
Business reminds me of football. Like people go, what's the one book that helped you learn about business? And it usually comes from football players. And I was like, what's the one book that taught you about football? Like, you learn football by playing football. You learn business by actually doing business. All right, so here's a question for you guys. 2 guys with great perspective on life and football, and I think that's really broad too. So what areas of the game would you like to change anywhere? Media, refereeing, the actual game itself, player welfare. Do you guys got any thoughts on this?
Yeah, right.
Sorry to spring it on you.
No, that's all good. I think, like I said before, like I think the NRL, like we're light years behind in the media aspect, and I think I'd like to see players like use their platforms a bit better. Like I feel like we've like we spoke about, like when you finish playing, like no one gives a stuff about you. So like for players to things like Chris has done, like organise and build for when you leave the game. Like I feel like we've gotten so much better now in the NRL, but I still think there's time for players to really hone in on things that they can, I guess, that are their hobbies and potentially build for life after football.
Do you know where I feel like a lot of players waste their opportunities with business, like sponsors?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people. There's a lot of very successful people out there that love like rugby league and see you guys on this pedestal.
It's connections.
Connections and
networking,
networking,
relationships.
And like when you would have come through, like that type of networking stuff didn't exist because it seemed as kind of cringy. Imagine doing like a post about yourself, and back in the day, all the older boys are going.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, there was a personal joke between some of our players, like with Gal, and Gal was around for 20 years, and every time we'd have like a function or something like that with sponsors, you wouldn't see Gal because he'd just be mingling with sponsors, he'd be talking. And, he's getting a lot of stuff for free cars, getting good deals with certain things, not paying for food when he goes to restaurants, and everyone used to give it to him because he's a tight ass. But, mate, he's one of the smartest guys around because he's just built these relationships with all these people. And you're right, a lot of successful people, they love rugby league, So I think
Mark Boris is a prime example of that, who do anything for the Roosters, but I don't feel like any Roosters have sat down with him, hey, bro, can I come pick your brain?
There you go.
Someone like having someone on the board of his caliber, like honestly, who obviously has an interest in the club and what he's done in business. Again, pick your brain for half an hour sitting over coffee.
Yeah,
people pay thousands and thousands of dollars for that coffee.
It was funny what you said about Gal. Brett Hodgson was exactly the same. I remember when I came through, but he just said to me, he goes, at any function, just I know, like, and again, I was pretty quiet. I got my nickname Rowdy because I didn't speak for 2 years. Basically, opened my mouth after playing my 50th first grade game. But he literally said, when you go to a function, just go and talk to people because you never know who you're going to speak to, and you never know how they can help you either now or in the future. Like he goes, don't go in it thinking, what can I get out of this now? That's like the wrong attitude to have. And and that I think a lot of players probably have that. They will chat to a sponsor or someone, and then like, oh, if I can't get a shoe deal or a car deal out of you now, then what I'm talking to you. But it's like, well, hang on, you're building a relationship. If you build a relationship, you don't know where that person's going to be in 5 years or who he might tell, you know what, I had a mad conversation with so-and-so. And Brett Hodgson was the best about that. And, you know, the people, the relationships he built, even when he went overseas, played overseas and coached overseas, so many years, he's come back now and still got those relationships because he did that for such a long time.
Maybe like one more thing I would change within the game, or like I think I would like maybe like a coaches or captain's challenge.
Oh yeah,
I think that'd be cool. And again, like I know I'm like
Very
heavy
NFL.
on NFL heavy, like with the coaches challenge, and they throw the flag and that. But I think it would be cool, like one per game. You know, like sort of change it up. You know,
what's an example of it where that could happen?
Well, for example, like, you know, obviously we go to the video ref a lot, pretty much nearly every try. But if there's like a knock on and or an error in the play the ball, right? So I've gotten up to play the ball, I'll play the ball.
Oh, it's gone either way, yeah.
There's 50-50. You can, and then a lot of the time in the replay, there might be clearly someone just knocked the ball out. Boom, coach's challenge. And then, you know, it might go take it up while the scrum's getting formed. It happens, you know, there's no time loss, and then you can quickly see it, boom, overturn it, play on.
Yeah, that'd be smart, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you need something like that because, I mean, in big games where a big moment, you know, and you might get plenty of games where they don't, you know, coaches and captains don't use it, but if you have one
per game, per
game,
team,
Yeah.
I'd like that.
Anything else, Wills?
I think.
Deep thinkers here,
No,
boys.
but, you know, I think as Chad said, a lot of the players and how they use their brand and social media, and but I think again the relationships with the media. But I think this is the game as a whole. I look at say the AFL and the relationships they have with the media, and I think it's chalk and cheese to say that it's like an us versus them mentality sometimes with the media, with the players and the NRL media. And I think the only way to grow the game is to build that relationship because I don't think there's a lot of distrust between both players and the media. So just a way to build that relationship because then that'll help build the brand, build the game, and everyone wins.
Yeah,
you know?
and I feel like there's times where obviously every player has been burnt by certain journalists at times, and some players like literally won't talk to a journalist for whatever reason because they've been burnt by them. But I also feel like, you know, sometimes as players you kind of need to be like the bigger person, and like you can still think about it, but like if you see this journalist who may have like written something about you negatively and just, you know, act like nothing happened, like, you know, how you going, mate, like, you know, just try and be the bigger person, and all of a sudden this journalist's like, man, this guy's all right, like he might actually think twice about, you know, the next time. You know, maybe. Do you know
what's funny, Shay, when you say that? I wouldn't say his name on here now, but he does the exact same thing. So he used to get burnt in the media all the time, and now he actually goes out his way when the media around. He'll go around, hey mate, how's it going? Like, what's your thoughts on the game? And because he doesn't really get burnt in the papers and shit anymore.
Yeah, it's hard.
Building that relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and I think that's a big difference. Again, you look in the AFL, and again, everyone talks about, say, in the off season, you know, players and NRL scandals and this and that, but again, I think it's the relationship. There's obviously things, you know, players obviously in times are definitely in the wrong, but there's certain things that it's like it's at the discretion of whether the journalist actually goes through and releases certain things, whereas in the AFL, because if there's a good relationship, a lot of the times I don't think that stuff would actually get published.
Yeah.
I feel like we're very quick to throw players under the bus here in Sydney and with NRL, aren't we?
Especially in the off season, man. Oh my goodness.
Can't even have a fight in Bali anymore.
Oh my god. It was like
That's hurting me.
Yeah, it was like Bali was like the worst place ever. Like every NRL player was there, like getting in trouble. Like we went to Bali, 11 of us for 4 nights, and it was
It's 12 of Corey, wasn't it?
Corey was there last night. I've got a funny story about Normie actually that last night. And anyway, like we were there for 4 nights. The week after we lost to Manly in the first semi-final, and you know, we had no dramas at all. Everything was sweet. So.
Yeah. Like that. All right, here's a bit of Q&A part. We sort of reached out and asked a few fans a few questions. Who's your current NRL man crush?
Jeez.
Who do you latch on to at training?
Yeah, I'll probably hang around Moiser, Wado, Sean, Jaden Brayley, but he's gone to the Knights now. Probably hang around those 4. Probably.
Who's your favourite out of them?
Probably Moiser.
So you don't like Shawnee? Has there been a bit of tension in between?
I love Shawnee. We all play golf quite often. So
who's the best?
Wado's the best.
Oh, he's good, eh? No, I heard that.
Yeah, I'm second best. And then probably Sean. Sean actually hasn't beat me, but he hits a good ball. And then Moises like got the most unconscious technique ever, but he still manages to go all right.
Them Westies, huh? Are you?
I suppose for my team, got to be bench. Like I just look at even now. Like
Do you know what? I still look at Benji. I'm like, fuck, you're the man.
Exactly. That's and I like at train. I look at it and I go, mate, you're still just doing the same things you were doing. Obviously, his game's changed. I think he's got a more complete game now. Like he probably doesn't have the agility that he had when he was 21.
Yeah.
And some of the skills and
Mate,
the things he pulls off.
His year this year was phenomenal.
I know, but he does it at train day in day out, and he practices it, and he, even the little flick passes, the no look passes, and he just lands them time after time. And I'm like, you're just getting better and better, and just honing your skills. So just seeing him at training every day definitely amazes me.
Benji, you're the man. What's your pet 8?
Oh, jeez. Pet 8, probably like people that don't look after like their toenails or like if they're walking around in thongs, like like man, your toenails, man. Especially around training, like people who don't have showers after training. Like there's some boys, I'm not going to say names.
Name names.
The boils and the ringworms when they start going around. Oh man,
You know where it's coming from too, usually.
We see some of the young boys and they got their training shorts and they're walking out with their bag after training. Go, hey, what are you doing? Into the shower.
Ringworm, boils, like you said, rowdy, like they're pet 8. Like just it's not hard, just have a shower, man.
Clip your toenails.
Yeah. Yuck.
Your pet 8?
Oh, at training, it's when blokes take their strapping off and they'll throw it on the ground and it lands in your locker and that. Just little stuff like that. I think that's a respect thing. But like you've been out in the field sweating, shoulder strapping, this and that. Guys cut off and just throw it near your stuff or on your stuff.
Or people using your towel. Oh
Yeah.
man, that's a pet 8. Yeah, Boogie, Jason Vicuya.
Was he the worst? Was he?
Man, he's our lockers next to each other. If my towel come in, I bring a fresh towel, and like I come off the field of stuff. Stay back on the field, do some kicking. I walk in, my towel's wet. I'm like, and Boogie's gone to lunch. I'm like, oh my god, man.
He's funny, isn't he?
Yeah, he's hilarious.
Yeah. Idols growing up?
I liked Andrew Johns. I think Andrew Johns and like Ben Kennedy. Watching the 97 and then obviously in 97 grand final Andrew Johns, but then watching the 01 grand final because it started following Newcastle after 97 and
I'm a Newcastle fan
yeah,
too.
but literally and watching how just those two they won the grand final in 01 by themselves. They just tore up Parramatta, just the combination they had and so probably just them two, obviously Joey just for the skills he had and I suppose, just really admire just how tough Ben Kennedy was and just the skills he had.
Yeah, I loved Freddie Fittler when I was a kid growing up. I used to love his left, right foot. And then also Matt Rogers, like one of my best mates growing up, used to live next door to Matt Rogers.
Oh, bullshit. You over his house all the time.
Oh, bro, all the time. We'd go over his front yard and he'd be putting bombs up for us. And
hectic.
Yeah, no, he was really good. I still keep in contact with him
Classy,
today.
eh?
Classy dude still.
Even transferred to rugby, cruising to there, put on a clinic over there as well.
Yeah,
Scary.
Now he's doing bloody triathlons.
I was gonna say he's doing like ultra marathons or something like that.
Yeah, he did Survivor. Like he's crazy. Yeah.
Oh, you're on death row. What's your last meal?
Oh, man, snitty,
Boring.
gravy.
Where
chips,
from?
Just a pub, man.
Yeah.
Just classic.
You got to go like a big like double cheeseburger. Got your fry, everything. I'm just going everything. I want to go. When you get the platter and you got like the little mini burgers and you just got a bit of everything. I just want to try everything.
Oh, a bit of a more serious one, Chad. Do you feel like you're underrated as a halfback?
Yeah, a few people say that to me actually, and like it is a little bit humbling for me. Like when people say that, like I probably don't get the raps as probably a lot of other superstars in the game get, and that's fine with me. Like I don't play the game to get raps or to get noticed by commentators or fans. I play the game to win and for my teammates and just to be the best player I can be. So I guess to answer the question, probably yes, because of the amount of attention a lot of other players get, but it sits fine with me. It's all good.
All right, last question. What's the secret to longevity in the game, Chris?
I think probably two things. I think you gotta look after your body. At some point you're going to pick up injuries, niggles, and if you are really diligent, being professional, looking after your body, your recovery, you're going to manage those periods well. So physically, I'd say look after your body. Mentally, again, just having something away from footy, switch off. With education, community work, whatever, find a passion, something you can completely switch off from footy because again, as Chad said, you're going to have a time, you're going to ride the roller coaster, and if you ride it too hard, then it's going to take you out of the game. You've got to be able to somehow level yourself where you don't really celebrate the wins too much, and you don't take the losses too hard because you're going to have those highs and lows.
Smart advice. All right, boys, thanks for jumping on. Where can people find you?
Yeah, well, I'm at Chad Townsend 10, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Also, you can check out Talk of the Town podcast. We put it out on Spotify, Apple, and also YouTube.
Yeah, awesome. You?
Yeah, Chris Lawrence 04 on Instagram and Twitter, and Chris Lawrence on Facebook. I think it's 04 on Facebook. I don't know, mate. I'll just try to start.
Still holding on to them Centre
I'm
days.
still, those Centre days, and the Be Ready project on the Apple and Spotify podcast.
All right, we'll put the links in the bios for them. Okay. All right, good boys. Thanks for jumping on. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Adams.